Now in this problem, again, we're talking about the cost of debt. And the relevant cost of debt is the cost of debt after taxes. Now the C part of this problem now goes to how we calculate what's called the before tax cost of debt, which is the yield of the bond in the market. And initially now I'm going to show you how to do this through interpolation, which again is a topic we covered in a previous video earlier in this textbook. And but at any rate, we're going to talk about some of the issues involved in this. And in part C it reads, calculate the before tax and after tax cost of debt. Now again, the relevant cost of debt to a company is the after tax cost of debt. Now the first thing though you have to do is calculate the yield on the bond. And we're going to do an interpolated yield here. And again, this is something we did and learned in a previous chapter in the textbook. Now the yield to maturity. Now that's the unknown here. We're going to use what we call the pitchfork approach. And we don't know what that yield is. The first question is, what's the price associated with the yield? Now remember, this is the company now. And from their point of view, they're not getting $1,010. That's what the investment banker gets. This is the net price of the bond that you put here. And in this case, so the price associated with the yield to maturity on the bond now is the net price of the bond. And we find out and we know that at 12%, that's the stated return on the bond. The stated return and the yield are the same. The price of the bond is face value, which in this case is $1,000. If we put 13% into the bond pricing formula now, we come up with a price of $935.44. And as we go through our process here, this price minus that price is X, this price minus that price is Y. And when you interpolate to find a yield in this case, the yield is going to be equal to X over Y times A minus B plus B. So plugging into that formula what we know X and Y. A minus B is 1%, not 0.01, but 1. And then we're going to add whatever this is to 12%. And we turn out that if you do the math now, you get 12.3098%. Now that's the before tax cost of debt. That's one of the things that I wanted you to calculate. That's also the yield on the bond in the market, the interpolated yield. And to calculate the cost of debt after taxes, which is the relevant cost of debt that you want to use when you're doing cost of capital. It's the cost of the debt in the market, the yield on the bond, the before tax cost of debt, this thing right here, multiplied by 1 minus the tax rate. So we take this before tax cost of debt multiplied by 1 minus the tax rate, which they told us was 40%, decimal equivalent of that, 0.40. And we find the after-tax cost of debt, which is 7.3859%. Now, if you want to calculate the before-tax yield in your calculator, you can see over here in this box now, we put into present value what the company nets from selling a bond. That is, they're going to get $980 today. To get that much money, they have to make interest payments of $120 every year, and they have to pay $1,000 at the end of 15 years. And again, N is 15, that's the number of years. Have your calculator solve for I, and you should get 12.2983%. And that would be the equivalent of this number here. What's the more accurate number now? That's going to be the calculator yield. This is really an estimation technique, though this is what your calculator does. And if you put all this stuff into Excel, you get exactly the same answer as you would on your calculator.